Hi everyone! Before we begin, I want to let you know that this podcast is for informational and inspirational purposes only. The advice and insights shared here are based on my personal experiences and expertise, but they are not a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, or business advice. If you are dealing with a specific issue, please consult a qualified expert. And thanks for watching. So today we're going to talk about something that cracks our heart kind of wide open. And it's really what your loved ones in spirit really want you to know. You know, whether or not you've lost somebody maybe a month ago, a year ago, 20 years ago, you've probably asked yourself, are they okay? Do they forgive me? Can they hear me? Well, I'm going to tell you, as someone who speaks to the other side every single day, and there is not a day that does not go by that I don't communicate with them, I'm here to tell you, yes, they can hear you. Yes, of course they forgive you for whatever. That's, you know, there's nothing for you to hold on to. And of course they are okay. And I will tell you, they still have their own opinions. They're characters. They're people after all. And so we're going to go through some of the questions that you may ask about your loved ones. And I will say to you, you know, transitioning is a hard thing. This transitioning is, you know, we're moving from the life that we have to another life that we're living in the spirit world. So let's talk about this. One of the things that we, you know, are they okay? A lot of people say to me, I just want to know my loved one is okay. And when a loved one has passed away, you know, they come through and say, are they in pain? Are they in fear? Or do they have any confusion anymore? And, you know, for instance, let's take a long battle with cancer. I had a gentleman that once passed away with a really long, arduous battle of cancer. His daughter was expecting to hear from a frail old man who had fought, who had died fairly young, but was very, you know, he was frail. His muscles didn't work. He could hardly talk. And I'm going to tell you, that man showed up in his muscle car from the 1980s, like with this like real attitude, this kind of loud music, massive grin, hair sleeked back. He was full of life. That's how they want to be remembered. I'm going to tell you, my grandfather comes through at the age of like 40s with hair. You know, he died in his 80s with no hair. And so you're going to come back. They're going to come back to us and show you their time in life, that they were rich, they were vibrant, they had energy, the time that they want to be remembered. They don't want to be remembered in that pain or that suffering. Let's talk about Alzheimer's here. That confusion, they're no longer in that confused state. That was going on with their brain in this waking state. It's not necessarily in the state that we have seen them. They are coming back in a way that they want to be remembered, dancing, living free, happy. That's how they want to be seen. You know, they shed all of this suffering. They shed the story. They shed the identity that they lived that has weighed them down. If we come to think of it, our stories become part of our identity. You know, people say, hi, my name is John. I am an entrepreneur, or I am a business owner, or I do X, or I do that. Our stories become the identity of who we are. Same with spirit. And so what happens is they shed those identities as soon as we pass. You know, that whatever has weighed them down, what's ever taken them to that point is no longer with them. And I'll tell you, they come through humorous, they come through funny, they come through with deep, rich emotion. But there is no judgment or shame. Now, there are times that we want to say, hey, we want to judge them. We want to say what happened. We want to have that moment of like being human, but they're not. It's not about how they died. It's not about who they were. It's about who they still are in spirit. The core underlying values of who they are, the core underlying values of themselves never changes. You know, I'll be honest with you, if we look at some of the people who have done awful things in life, they weren't born awful. Bad things happened to them to make them like create their life in a certain way. But right at the deep core of them, there's a good person somewhere. It's just been clouded by circumstances that have happened to them. And so, really, we're dealing with characters. I like to say that they're characters in the story. And I'll tell you, if they were cheeky in life, if they were fun in life, if they were mischievous in life, they're going to be cheeky in spirit. If they were quiet, they'll come through very gentle and whisper. And spirit still keeps that essence. I have many times that someone says in a large demonstration, my loved one was so quiet, or they had social anxiety. Are they not coming through for that reason? I'm like, no, it's not always the loud ones that's going to get heard. You know, it's that quiet one. It's just they're in the background. And really, it's up to us as a medium to soften our energy, to meet that character, to meet that essence of who they really, really are. So let's look about what spirit wants you to know. Okay, what do they really want you to know? And I think this is important. One is, I'm not gone. You know, they'll show you in tiny little ways that they are still with you. And, you know, they'll show you signs. They'll give you these chills. You'll all of a sudden be thinking of them. You'll get chills and you'll be like, oh my gosh, songs, random objects moving. You can have all of these things, these little signs that might happen 1111, 222, 333. I often get repeating numbers. I get 1111, yes, but I actually get different numbers as well. I get 311, I get 333, 444. I want you to understand that you are never imagining anything. In fact, when your imagination is open and when we're in our creative space, not necessarily artistic, but when we're thinking big and we're thinking openly, that is when spirit is going to come to you. That is when you're going to notice the perfume smell, the lights flickering. These are all things that mean something. And I invite you to literally just stop, pause, and say, hey, how are you? Because what that does is it invites them to start a communication. You're not going to see some disembodied spirit that's going to pop out of nowhere like something on Ghost. It's not going to happen like that. You'll just feel an energy. You'll feel a presence. You'll feel an awareness. And I think that is something that is so important for you to realize. So communicate with them. They haven't gone anywhere. Like, imagine that they're just in the next room and you can have to knock on the door and say, hey, are you in there? And trust me, they'll make themselves known. Another is when, you know, my clients will often say, can you tell them? Can you tell them I love them? Can you tell them I miss them? Well, my answer to that is you just did. You can talk to your loved ones anytime, any place, anywhere. Absolutely. You don't need me. You don't need another medium. And any medium that tells you you need them, you don't. All right. My aim, my joyous aim would be to actually let people empower you to find your own way with mediumship and have your own relationship with spirit. That means that I'm essentially out of a job, because what that shows is that you're creating your own dialogue. I would love you to know that your spirit love hears you all the time. You know, grief, honestly, makes us think that we've lost a connection because they're not physically here. But really, what spirit is saying, we've just changed a conversation slightly. We've just changed a dynamic in our relationship. We've just changed how we communicate. Listen, they hear your apologies. They hear the fact that you miss them. They hear the I love you. They hear the where are you? Why aren't you listening to me? And they're there. But what's happening in our mind is we're missing it because we're so in our logical space. We're so trying to find logic and reason into it that sometimes we're missing them. So I encourage you to sit and breathe. Maybe have a moment, put your hand on your heart, connecting to who you are. Maybe start writing down, maybe write letters to your loved ones. I always say to people at the beginning of their grieving process, maybe they've just lost someone or they're due to lose someone. Write down your letters, write down everything that you wish that you could say. What you're doing is you're keeping a dialogue open. I know many people who have written books. In fact, I've got many of them here. They've written books because they've had dialogues with their family and their children and their loved ones, and their loved ones have communicated back to them. It's not going to happen overnight. And I will say to you that you're going to pick it up in a variety of different ways. You may hear them, you may see them, you may feel them, you may know that they're there, you might get random signs, but this is the way that they will communicate with you. And if you're not hearing them, I'm going to say be patient. Really, really be patient with yourself and be gentle with yourself too. A lot of people have actually also said to me, I'm not feeling my loved one. They have passed and I don't feel them. I'm also going to say this. It has been known that spirit comes to other people, not you, because it is the fact that it could send you into the spiral of grief. I don't always think mediumship is the right thing for everybody, because what it can do is it can open a wound, and it can open a deep wound that you haven't healed, or that there's no healing from grief at all, but you haven't worked with, or we haven't come to terms with, or we haven't accepted. And as we know, grief comes in a variety of different stages, and it's not linear. Oh, I wish it was. It's not. But what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves to feel, we're allowing ourselves to be empowered and say, okay, so what is it that I may have to do to start opening myself up to spirit? And you start looking at it. Are you so desperate to communicate with spirit that maybe you're missing the signs, or that it might send you back into a whole grieving cycle again? And sometimes I've had these happen where people have come to me and they've said, why aren't I seeing my mom? Everybody else is getting dreams. Everybody else is getting numbers. Everybody else is getting this. And I'm like, you want it so badly. And you want your mom so desperately that it could send you into a spiral. And they've said to me, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've said, and maybe this is the first communication you need to then open the doorway. And I think that's actually really good, because anyone who does mediumship should be really careful with your personal emotions and feelings and take you into consideration. It's not about money. It's about the person in front of us. And it's about being delicate with your feelings and recognizing that we may be the first point of contact, and how we deliver that message is going to make or break and shape how you see the afterlife. So remember that. So choose very wisely here when you go to a medium. The other thing that Spirit will often say, and truly, is have no regrets. Forgive yourself. Let go of guilt. This is easier said than done. I got to tell you, it's easier said than done. Regrets are really about what was said or what wasn't said, or what was done and what wasn't done, being there or not being there. Listen, it's a human thing. Spirit is never going to hold it against you. They see things the bigger picture. They see things in a much larger scale, understanding that when we're so nitpicking on the details, Spirit's now and got this like bird's eye view and sees it as lessons. Spirit, the soul of your loved ones, are never going to hold anything against you. So you actually have to stop punishing yourself, because in the grand scheme of things, this is actually about a lesson. They're not angry. They're relieved. They're letting the story go, if you remember what I said. And they're going to want you to do that too, which also means tapping, getting it out of your body, doing some somatic works. So, I've had many times where somebody has said to me, I didn't make it. I found out my mum was sick. I got on a plane and she did not last until I landed. She passed while I was still in the air. And honestly, I will say to you, she's not feeling any guilt about that. She's not feeling bad about it. She doesn't want you to feel any guilt, because that was her time to pass. Maybe she didn't want you to see her in that way. And they're holding so much guilt. What if I shoulda, woulda, coulda? But really, Spirit want you to have peace. They want you to realize that this is not about feeling guilty. This is about peace. I've had many people who have said, are they sad that I didn't go to their funeral? No. You chose not to. Your lessons, your choices are important to you. They want to empower you. They really want to empower you to make your own decisions. So remember that Spirit just want you to have peace, because they see things in a much different light, and realize that all of these things that were logical or that we're nitpicking or that we're trying to do, trying to busy work or trying to answer emails, is that really making us happy? What is it that they're trying to show us? And really, they're trying to show us that life is for living. The other thing that they often say to me is, you are stronger than you think you are. And that comes at a time when someone is heavily grieving. They will say to me how proud they are of you, how strong you are. And you've got to remember this resilience. Listen, you got out of bed. You're showing up for the children. You're still lighting a candle for your mom every night, but you got up. You functioned. You stood upright. You showed up at work. You are going through the motions of this grief. You're going through the circumstance. You're going through everything, but you are showing up. And if it makes you okay to light a candle every night, or to kiss that photograph every night, or to write in your journal and tell your dad you're sorry, if it makes that feel better for you, then do it. You're strong. You're stronger than you realize. You're resilient. And Spirit wants you to know how proud they are of you. Listen, grief isn't breaking you. All right. It's not breaking you. It's actually shaping you. It's giving you a lesson. It's giving you lessons in life that is really helping you, because it's through these lessons that you are living right now that you could help another person, or it's going to help you in another situation. You're actually a remarkable human being. One of the hardest ones that I always have to talk about, and is probably the most difficult one, is that when spirits say to me, and it's often when it is talking about a husband leaving his wife, has left, he's passed away, or a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or some form of relationship, that they say, you're going to love again. It's a hard thing. And it's a big one. Because people, us humans, think that when we're moving forward, and we're not moving on, we're just moving forward in our life, we're not leaving them behind, and you're not forgetting them, and you're not cheating on them. But we often, and many of my clients have said, I am betraying my love. That is not the case. There's a sole purpose. If you were meant to meet a certain person, you're going to meet that person. I've just had a situation where someone I know, one of their parents has remarried a year and a half after their other parent died. And there's a lot of emotions, opinions, thoughts in that. And they are human thoughts, and they are valid thoughts. But here is what the husband said is, I want you to live. There's a whole wide world out there. I want you to enjoy it. You are allowed to live. I'm still here, waiting for you. You are there. It's time to live. And this may be a raw topic for anybody who's been in this situation. They don't want you to be stuck in this limbo waiting for them, or waiting for yourself to pass away. They want you to enjoy your life. They want you to laugh again. They want you to dance again. They want you to date again. They want you to flirt again. They want you to be happy with how you look. You're never leaving them behind. You're always carrying a piece of them with you. And as someone who is in my personal life, I am married to someone who his first wife passed away. I'm actually going to say to those of you who become their second love, it's okay for them to talk about their first love. Yes, you might have moments where you'll think, oh my God, you didn't even like that person. But reality is they love them at some point. When Chris lost his first wife, Rosa, it was an awful situation. They were separated. They'd stayed together for a period of time because of health benefits and whatever it was. And they had chosen to live separately, but they had also chosen to remain friends. So they were not together. I came into the life. It was a difficult situation. And when she passed away, my life dramatically changed. I always say I inherited a dog, a daughter, and a husband, because I did. On the 13th of February, I inherited everything. And what a massive transition. And while I understood their relationship wasn't easy, I also understood there was a deep love because they were still friends. And I also, sometimes through gritted teeth and sometimes through, it was hard, I lit a candle for Rosa because her daughter needed to honor her mom. I cheersed on Rosa's birthday. We bought the house that I am living in right now on Rosa's birthday. I wrote in the walls of this house, because it was still being built, a thank you message to Rosa for showing us our home. This was a woman who did not want her husband to be with me, did not want that relationship, did not want him, and even said, I am going to honor Rosa's request of not marrying for at least a year after her passing. And he honored it. He didn't even ask me to marry him for at least a year afterwards. And that was just in an honor of her memory. But we still, even on their wedding anniversary, I say happy anniversary to you and Rosa. Happy birthday, Rosa. We celebrate her honoring of her passing. I do this because it's important, because I cannot wipe away a life that they had before me. And honestly, Rosa, thank you very much for making him the perfect man for me, because she helped morph that man, his life experiences, and now he's come towards me. It's incredible. And so I want you to honor this. It's such a powerful situation, but I want you to realize they want you to love again. They want you to be a person again in the real world. They don't want you to carry them and the grief continually. So I want you to recognize that and really be in that moment and go, okay, maybe they do. And it's when you're ready. You don't have to force any of this. This is all when you're ready. It's not easy. And there's always going to be that one person, be it a friend, a relationship, somebody that you are involved with, a work colleague, that may even make it better for you and will bring you your first laugh. All right, so I want to answer some questions that have come in that are, true, and they are real life questions. So someone asked, I keep seeing butterflies every time I talk about my dad. Is that him? Well, I'm going to say absolutely. Spirit is going to use whatever they need to get your attention. That may not be your dad. It may be the fact that your dad has influenced you to look at that butterfly. Or your dad might be saying, hey, I'm always in the butterfly. And it could be him waving at you. Spirit will use what you will notice. So you may notice the pennies on the floor. You may actually notice the birds in the sky. You may notice the rainbows. Those are the things that they are going to use. Definitely always nature and also electronics. They will use those things to help you see them. Another question is, can they hear me cry in the shower and can I talk to them? Well, I'm going to say yes. They're probably standing right there with you. They're probably holding space for you quietly, sort of respectfully, lovingly, and caring for you. They are hearing everything that you say. And yes, they still love you. That love has never changed. That love is still there. They are with you. I want to talk about another one. Do they see me doing naughties, the business sex? Well, no, they're not going to watch it all. They're not going to watch the human act of intimacy. They're not going to. They're going to come in at times when you need them. Another question I get is, angels real? I truly believe they are. And I've heard many stories. I mean, many, 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 many stories where people have saved themselves. People have been saved from car accidents. People have been given encouragement. Someone helped them on the side of the road, and then all of a sudden, someone said, "Did you see that?" And no one else saw them. It's happened to me. So I truly believe that spirit is on your side. So just in closing here, I want you to remember that your loved ones are with you. They're not just an energy. They're not just a memory. They are not just this floating butterfly. They are truly right in your with you. They're in your heart. They're in your memory. Keep them alive. Sit in with spirit. Sit in their energy. Be present. And sometimes, and it can be quite awkward, you'll get obvious signs. Trust me, books will fall off them. Hey, you're not listening. Or you may go in and go, I never put that in the fridge. Why would I put that in the fridge? No, you're not going crazy. Maybe they're putting things away for you. So I'm really going to encourage you to look for the signs. And remember, grief can show up in any way, shape, or form. Grief is one of the things that really impacts us. And there's an opportunity down below in the link. We're going to share with you the opportunity to get a PDF support. There's meditations in there, there's grieving techniques. And I encourage you to share this with anybody who may need a little bit of helping hand in the grieving process. There's also workshops that you can do. Just go to lisawilliams.com, you'll see it all. And I would love to hear your direct signs from spirit. What are you getting? What is it you're receiving? Because I think it's so important that you start looking for these signs. And if this episode of the podcast gave you some comfort or some hope, just share it. Out there somewhere is somebody who's scrolling through their day feeling completely lost and alone. And hearing this could be their first moment of peace. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. My name's Lisa Williams on Hope, Healing and Transformation. And until next time, enjoy and always look for the signs. Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, the information shared on this podcast is meant to inspire and support you, but it's not a replacement for personalized advice from a qualified professional. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to tune in next time. Until then, take care and keep believing in something better.